So the other night you were watching this film, The Pointless Joy of Freedom. And of course, as spiritual seekers, we can easily create some kind of goal. I want to be free. And this would somehow be a special achievement. So it would be some kind of point. But this film, the title of this film, is suggesting that actually there is no point to life, which is not really comfortable. Our ego is not very comfortable with that. And so, of course, people are constantly creating all kind of points, all kind of goals in their life, because then they can put lots of effort to reach that goal. Then they feel they've achieved something, and so on and so on. So this is, in a way, one of the strategies that the ego uses to kind of keep itself going, keep itself alive, and not have to face up to the fact there is no point. Because, of course, human beings are not really comfortable with the idea that their life has no point. Yeah. And if you look at your life, you're probably also not so comfortable with the idea that your life has no point. Pointless life, pointless joy. Yeah. So, I mean, if you can really buy this, then of course that would make each moment much more important, yeah? Because if the satisfaction is not going to come, when you achieve some point in some year's time, but actually now is now, and you can feel satisfied now. And when you're really satisfied and contented right now, then you don't really care about some point, in the future. And I'm very lucky because I have my two final masters that have come into my life at rather an old age, two 4-year-old little girls. And they managed to constantly remind me if I needed reminding, and I probably do sometimes need reminding, because they're constantly living this freedom. So, I remember before they were born, actually, when I was trying to figure out what it meant to be a father, and I already kind of was, looking forward to them arriving. So I remember one day I was in a zoo, and after I'd been around the zoo, I got to the zoo shop, and in the zoo shop, they had piles of stuffed animals, soft stuffed animals. So I thought, oh, I buy these. They'll love these stuffed animals. So I bought a load of stuffed animals. And of course, actually, babies don't have any interest in stuffed animals, actually. So I had this big pile of stuffed animals, and I made a very nice playroom for them. And then what to do with all these stuffed animals. And so anyway, I got the idea, and I put like strings, like washing lines in the room. And then I clipped all these stuffed animals onto these two lines. And it made actually rather a beautiful art piece, because they're all colorful, different colors, different shapes. They're all pinned up on these two lines. And even now, when they're 4 years old, they've hardly shown any interest, actually. Maybe an occasional teddy bear. One of the little girls has got a little cute dog that she's been carrying for about 2.5 years, actually. Amazingly, although it gets lost sometimes, she always finds it again, and she sleeps with it every night. It's almost amazing. It's become kind of part of her hand, actually, this little dog, But anyway, the other morning when they had woken up and they were having their hour or so of free play with no parental control, one of these little girls went into the playroom and pulled off the line all these stuffed animals, right? They're all on the floor when I came in, And of course, immediately I started to kind of flip out, because actually it's a lot of effort to put them all on the line and to make it kind of artistic and blah, blah, blah. So I was quite attached to what I had achieved, And now suddenly she just pulled them all off the line. They're all on the floor. But anyway, luckily I didn't kind of explode. I was a bit shocked and I didn't quite know how to respond. I was a bit pissed off. And then luckily I did maybe the right thing. I said to her, you know, well, I see you've had lots of fun to pull off all the stuffed animals. Would you like to help me put them back on again? You see? And for her, it was absolutely fine. So then we put all the animals back together, you know, on the line together. And we had also some fun doing that. And I'm sure for her, it was much the same, you know. So as she has no idea about how something should be, then actually she's free. You know, she's free to be in the moment. She just doesn't pull them off every morning. It was just once she's pulled them off. So probably I won't get too angry about that. And the thing about the toothpaste I was telling you earlier, she's actually only done that maybe twice with a toothpaste. And I was thinking about it and I was realizing that she has more fun with her toothpaste than I have with my toothpaste, because my toothpaste I just put on the toothbrush, you know. So she's kind of already figured out a way to have more fun with toothpaste than I have. So anyway, I don't know whether you understand why I'm telling you all this, but you know, we have very strong ideas about how things should be. Yeah. And as we get older, these tend to get more fixed, you know. And the title of this talk is, where is it? Don't go back to normal. Don't go back to normal, right? So I thought I would provocate you with this pointless joy, you see. So, of course, it's very, very easy after we've been on some sort of meditation retreat or this satsang retreat, and we start to get a bit kind of shaken around and we get some new ideas and maybe we make some new decisions and blah, blah, blah. But then, of course, it's very, very easy, even if it only takes a few hours or a few days, we suddenly realize, I mean, today's Monday, so maybe by Wednesday at 3:00, you might notice as you're having your afternoon tea that you're completely back in all the structures that are very familiar, because, of course, familiar structures are having a kind of gravity, some sort of gravity. So how to prevent that? How to prevent that, you see? And it seems to me what I was talking about this morning is the way. So we have to establish a strong connection to our witness. You see, that's in a way our only chance to not to fall back into the old structures and blah, 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 you see. And I see this all the time because I'm, you know, for many years and more than 20 years, I've been conducting lots and lots of seminars where I meet a bunch of people. And I've often, very often, by the end of the seminar, people are very, very open and there's a new understanding, blah, blah, blah. But then very quickly, somehow the structures that we're familiar with, the ego that we're very familiar with, grabs us again very quickly, quite quickly. And this has been very disappointing to me, actually, as a teacher. I've been rather disappointed that human beings are actually like that. Of course, I was also like that for many years, actually. I was also like that. But I think the best way to avoid this is to give an empowerment to the witness. We see from what we were talking about this morning that this is a good chance. It's not a judge, right? It's not a judge, it's a witness, neutral witness. And by staying in this neutral witness, we're watching. And we can even watch ourselves fall back into the old structures. But it gives us a certain ability as Maharaj was suggesting, that the unconscious gradually merges into the conscious. So there's a shift happens, and without exactly doing something, by staying in the awareness or the witness, whatever you like to call it, by staying there, we have a chance of a slow merging of the unconscious into consciousness. And some of you are from our the community, and you've been been around me for some years. Some of the others of you, Arjuna, for example, has known me 5 or 6 years, and I can see that this really works. It really does work. It's kind of imperceptible how it changes, but real distinctly change happens. Not that you change, that you don't have to do something, but as Maharaj was very clearly suggesting, the unconscious merges into the conscious. So this is actually very, very beautiful, because our intrinsic nature is to live in the essence. So this talk is supposed to be, don't go back to normal. What is normal? See? So for most of us, unfortunately, normal is our ego. But for example, to my 2 little girls, that's not their normal. Their normal is having fun squeezing the toothpaste out onto the sink, or pulling all the stuffed animals off the line. That just is normal for them as not doing that, because they're living in such a space where they don't yet have any really strong ideas about what they should be doing or not doing. Luckily, they've learned not to run across the road, so they've got some basic kind of safety. They've got some sense of safety. I think they're quite good at that, not running into the road. But I'm happy to see that they're still able to be very creative in all kind of funny ways. And how often I have one idea and they do something completely different. Like, I might put some paper on their table. They have a little table with 2 chairs, and I might prepare them, some white paper and a box of colors, pencils maybe. And I think, great, they're going to do some drawings now, But then they find in the box the pencil sharpener, And then they spend a long time sharpening the pencil. Not really sharpening it, because they kind of over sharpen it, you see. But they get completely involved in this little thing in the box, which for them is very, very interesting. And they really want to discover, how it works and what the effect is on the pencil, or whatever it is. Maybe they think it's a spaceship, or I don't know where their fantasy is taking them. But anyway, my idea that they're going to sit down quietly and do a drawing is just a joke. That's my idea. It's nothing to do with their idea. Anyway, so basically, if you know where I'm pointing, whatever is happening in your life in any moment is basically what is supposed to be happening. Because although we have got very much into the idea of I am doing my life, the reality is not like that. The reality is that, your life is happening, and whatever is happening is supposed to happen, and probably nothing else could happen except what is happening. You couldn't be anywhere else except where you are, and actually everything is fine. So it might not be what you particularly would choose in that moment. For example, of course, in the last couple of months, most people wouldn't really choose to sit at home and not go out and meet their friends and take an airplane somewhere and lay on the beach, whatever it is. Most people wouldn't really choose to be in this lockdown. But we were already talked this morning that several of you have had very good experiences from that. And I've also had good experiences. So what to say, you know? It may be that this whole situation, which seems so desperate at the moment, might herald a completely new way or new direction for humanity. And that would anyway be very, very good. I was reading somewhere that in America, around 100,000 people have died from this virus. It's the largest number of any country. And that 100,000, I think it roughly equals the number of people who've died in the Vietnam War, you know, the Afghanistan War, the Iraqi War, and 2 or 3 other wars. I've forgotten which wars they were. So in the last years, the number of American soldiers who got killed in all these wars is roughly equal to who have died in America in the last 2 months from this virus. So this is a bit shocking, of course. So it's a high price, you could say. It's a high price. But if out of it, they would really start to move away from coal and oil, and they would start to develop nuclear power and lots of electricity, then this will change human life in a very positive way, and it might save the ecosystem of the whole planet. But this isn't likely to happen, of course, because of the vested interests. So I don't know. Anyway. Mm-hmm. So, you know, what I'm suggesting now in the next days is to be super focused on being the witness. And, you know, in the beginning, if you're not familiar with that, you really have to make some efforts to just watch. And that's not so simple in the beginning, but you can gradually create a situation where you become very, very good at doing that. And as you get good at doing it, you will notice changes happening in your life. Okay, would somebody like to share something? I think we have we have another hour or so. It's maybe a good moment for people to share. Maybe something from the whole weekend, or a burning question that you never got a good answer for. Not that I can give you a good answer, maybe, but try.
Atma.
So, hello. I want to share about this weekend. In the beginning, I thought it was not such a good idea not to be in the open sky house, because the open sky house is such a safe place where I can be in this energy the whole time, and I don't care about things of normal life. And now I experience that this being in my own home and come in and out in this energy, and not really out, but in my whole life with my husband and the dogs and cooking and such things. And this training to be aware of what is more strong, because I can train it in this weekend, and come back and be aware here and witness, and then I take it out and sit downstairs, and I probably train this weekend very much about it and saw myself in the situations and my normal thing how to handle it, and now I handle it in another way because I'm always aware of this, that I will go in 2 hours here again and sit with you, and it was very lovely. And something others I want to share is
Just 1 second before you share the next thing.
okay. Yes.
So, I mean, it's interesting what you're saying, I think, actually, because before this weekend, I actually I had no idea really how it would go. And I've done some other Zoom meetings, but kind of shorter and not 3 days and not twice a day and so on. So, I personally have found that it's been very energetic, actually, because somebody was saying earlier that, you can have eye contact with me directly and kind of very personally for a lot of the time, which perhaps you wouldn't have in a normal kind of meeting. And so this is one of the aspects about this Zoom, which I like very much, because although I've been doing online meetings for 12 years, we used a kind of studio, and mostly it was people watching from their from home. They were watching, but they were not really taking part, you could say. So this is much more. There's much more going on now in this Zoom, and so what you were also saying, that that you come to Open Sky House, it's very safe. You can relax. You can always trust everything's going to be fine, and then you're going to go back to your normal life. And maybe this weekend is going to help you to see nothing is normal. There's no normal life and Open Sky House life. There's, your life happening, and there is a possibility to bring this witnessing into your life very strongly. Everywhere.
Yeah, that's what I felt, and it's very beautiful to see that life is everywhere, and there is not this cut between Open Sky House and here the life here in my rooms. And the second thing is, I have your book Remarkable People, and there is this young lady who told that her guru came to her house and visit her and live in the house and be a part of the family. And I wrote this and think, oh, I would like that my guru will visit me at home and can also be a member and a normal member of my life. And now this weekend I felt like that. I felt you are a visitor here in my house also, while I am a visitor there with all the people that I met in this Zoom meeting. And
Right.
it's magic that all this is without borders together. And I thank you for visiting me at home.
Right. Well, of course, the way the Indian gurus behave is a bit different from how Western ones behave, probably. But yes, many of the Indian gurus had close connections to different families. I mean, not all the families, of course, but they would definitely visit people's homes and stay in people's homes and so on. Yeah.
And so you stay this weekend here with me
Right.
also.
Sure. Well, it's nice that you see it like that, because we just didn't know at the beginning of the weekend how it would all work out.
I will thank you so much for this weekend.
I mean, actually, out of what's happened this weekend, at lunchtime today, I was planning that, as I can't go to Ukraine at the moment, it seems that you can't fly into Ukraine until July. So I was supposed to go in a couple of weeks to do a weekend there. And then, of course, it's clear now that I would do it by Zoom because actually it's very good, very effective. And so I don't have to cancel the weekend. I can just do it in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
And in this way, things change, It's very interesting because, of course, probably 6 weeks ago, I never heard of Zoom. And now, gradually becoming familiar with it and the possibilities of it.
Yeah. And nothing is normal and all is normal. Like Zoom now here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So nobody should go back to normal because
No.
anyway, now the virus has destroyed what is normal. We're going to have a new normal. Even the newspapers talk about a new normal, I think.
Yeah, hopefully a better normal.
Yeah, well, that's something
Well,
else, but
thank you.
Can I say something? Can I share?
Who's that? Ah, okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel very, very touched by the weekend. Very, very touched. It's really yeah, so nice. And
Well, we have to thank Ohm because he's been the technical brains behind keeping Zoom working, and little touches of improvements here or there. Every time I come and sit down, I find the lighting has been made a bit better or something. So he's had the extra pressure of being the technical whiz that's kept it all running.
well, see, yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun doing that. It's been a lot of fun.
So what was happening for you at lunchtime? You were quietly sitting and crying?
So, well, we were talking about pain, and so yeah, I just asked myself the question, like, what is this pain, or why am I so attached to the pain? Why am I so attached to the pain? And then I just went into it, and I saw this great longing. There was just this great longing in the belly for, I don't know, home, for love, for yeah, I can only say home. I don't know what it means.
Right. And of course, that kind of feeling of missing home or desiring home or however you express it, is actually the reason why you're sitting here talking to me. So like everything else, there is two sides to pain, yeah? Like I was trying to explain earlier, that the pain can also be very beneficial because it creates, in your case, some longing for home, and then you've done something about it. You left the university and immediately moved to Open Sky House. So that was probably not what you're planning to do after university, was it?
Oh, it kind of was, but also not really my plan or something. It was all arranged. It was nothing that I really had to do. Or there's no really.
And I'm sure Daddy and Mummy were not so excited by your choice.
Not really, no. Oh, let's see. But anyway, I mean, what I can just see is that there is. I'm very silent. Somebody says, "Can you hear me well?"
No, you're okay. Yeah.
Okay. So what I can see is just that this pain I'm avoiding by yeah, following the belly's desires for connection, for closeness, for being with somebody. And then I don't know, at the same time yesterday I was, I don't know, so happy. I don't know, every word you were saying was just touching me so much. And then in that moment there is, there's nothing really that I want. There's no desire for anything really. Or if desire comes up, then it's very easy to see it and to let go of the desire. But when it's like in that state of in between, like being aware, watching, but at the same time being in pain or something, then the desire is a quick way out of that pain in a way. And
Yeah, but when you, I mean, you're pretty young, and so you probably need a bit of desire. But, you know, as you see, that doesn't really work, you know,
yeah,
because, you know, when I was young, I was always looking for a woman who would make me feel good, you know. It was like it was my drug in a way, you know. And this is many young people's drug, and maybe it's part of life that we have to go through a period where, you know, we're very focused on somebody, finding somebody on the outside who's going to make us feel good. Because, of course, when you've got somebody kind of stroking you nicely, you don't really feel the pain in your belly, probably. Is that right?
pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I mean,
But then when they stop stroking you, after some hours maybe, or a day or two, then you notice the pain again. So that didn't really, that worked to some extent, but not completely. Yeah.
yeah,
And somehow what we're trying to do is to come to our own essence. And of course, when you come to your own essence, there you discover love, you know, the enormous reservoir of love. And so the word freedom then arises because you're free of the need of going into this desire game. You're free of the need of somebody stroking you, which doesn't mean you can't be stroked by somebody, but you do it in a different way. You know, instead of being stroked out of need, um, you know, then it becomes a sharing. You know, they stroke you and you stroke them, and it's kind of it's all right. Then it's different.
yeah,
It doesn't mean we can't, you know, relate with somebody, but there's an enormous difference when it's a kind of need, you know. And very often in the normal relating in society, two people who are feeling tremendous need, they meet each other and they think, wow, it's great. I finally met somebody who's going to save me. And then the other one is also saying to themselves, wow, great. I've met somebody who can save me. So here it's two lost people who think they've found the person who's going to save them, you see. And of course, that illusion continues for some time because it takes a while to discover that actually that's not like that. But that could be a year or two even, you know. And during that time, you know, you might already have a child on the way, and you may have already got married, and you know, you're already planning to live happily ever after, you know. And so it's all a bit too late then because then you're kind of caught up, yeah. So this is the normal relationship game. Yeah? But when you come together with somebody who's not lost but is found, two people who found. I mean, this was Osho. One of the inspirations I got from Osho. He had this beautiful way of talking about relationship because he was very much encouraging us to you know have relationships actually. And he was always describing this sort of perfect relationship where sitting on the bed, they would be the Buddha and the goddess, you know, they would be sitting there on the bed together. And this would be, of course, just absolutely wonderful. And all the children would be dancing around the bed and everybody would live happily ever after. And there'd be piles of love, something like that, you know. And I always thought, wow, this is really beautiful. But you don't find this very often.
Yeah, not really. No, no, no. Yeah.
But when you're young, and you're still, pretty young, you probably need to do that quite a few times before you see some of the difficulties.
Yeah, yeah. Probably need to see more. I mean, I've seen that this kind of game doesn't work, and I get your picture totally. I get that picture that Osho was talking about. Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Somebody else like to share something?
Yeah, Cornelia? No. No, you can talk, I think.
No, it's good.
Yes.
Okay. Maharaji said, if you're in your own self, there is no world. So, do you have some experience about that? The world exists not. It's just projection.
Yeah, I mean, this is where we have to be a bit careful, because there's a bit of video of Ramana Maharshi sitting on his couch reading the newspaper. Yeah. And then there's by my own experience in visiting Papaji in his house, he would be sitting watching the television. Yeah. And Maharaj, in the morning, when he first came to his meditation room in the morning, he would go to each picture of each guru. He had many pictures of many famous gurus on the wall around the room. And he would go to each one and put a garland of flowers onto the picture. So this was a process he did every morning. Yeah. So those three examples from three masters who probably were all saying, if there's no mind, there's no world. Yeah. So in one sense of it, there's no world. But in another sense, there is, you can sit in a chair, and the chair is kind of solid. And this is, if you like, the world. Yeah. So, my experience is that, how can I say? Actually, what I experienced if I think back, a long time, there was actually a period when the kind of world disappeared in some way, but only for a short time. And, now I've lived for many years, and, I sit in chairs and have a table, I even have a bed to lie in. And all that's happening inside an apartment, which is in a house. And sometimes I walk in the park. So then I look at the trees and hear the birds. So all that in one way, all that world in one way, you can say is real. Yeah. But for example, when somebody wrote a 3-volume about Papaji's life, he insisted on a title, Nothing Ever Happened. But also in the book, there were pictures of him in New York and pictures of him in Europe. There were pictures of him with a little girl on his knee, his daughter on his knee, and so on. Yeah. So we have to really understand what it means when you say, when the mind is when you're not anymore there in the mind, the world disappears. Yeah. And it's a bit subtle, and I don't know if I can really talk about it because it's very subtle. And, you know, the difficulty is that we have a certain, we have a sort of reference. You know, the mind creates a certain reference to understand everything. And I'm not sure if this can be understood by the mind actually in a kind of rational way. Probably not. It's more like a knowing that happens. So, as I say, in my case, I can say, you know, right now in front of me, I've got a glass of water, and behind I've got a nice bottle of water with a blue colored bottle. You know? So that's something quite solid, yeah. And I'm sitting in a chair, for example. So the world is here. But what has changed, and this is where it gets kind of subtle, in one way I could say I'm completely part of all of that. You know, I'm the glass, the water, the bottle, I'm the chair. It's like somehow I'm one with it all in one way of it. And in another way of it, I'm not really, I don't know, this is where it gets difficult. In another way, I can say I'm all here and not really out there. There was an example you may have noticed in the concert last night. I don't know if you noticed this, but there were 3 guys from our community in the band. And if you looked at them, they were very much with themselves. They were very sort of centered, and they were not much interested in what was happening around. And then there was the tabla player who was a guest, and he was constantly looking around. He was completely, you know, if somebody did something in the room, he immediately picked up on it, and he was constantly moving. There was really a big difference between him and the other 3 guys. So when you're really in the world, then somehow that's how it is. You're completely busy with the world. When you're here, it's like you're completely busy with here, and in some sense of it, the world is disappearing. But as I say, not really, because I'm sitting in a chair. Does that help at all?
Yes. There are 2 realities somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, probably there are more than 2.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't really understand yet. You know, maybe humanity has not yet figured out how consciousness is really working, and maybe it will never figure it out. It's a bit like, you know, if you're a goldfish and you're swimming around in a goldfish bowl, you're never going to figure out what it's like to be in the air. You know, walking around and breathing air. You'll never be able to figure that out, because your only reference is what it's like to be swimming around in water.
But is it my projection, this world? I mean, or is it given? But yeah, I'm the creator or not?
Everybody is the creator. Yeah, everybody is the creator of the world. Yeah, and
but he has his own world. So
sorry.
And he has his own world. So
yes, but the own
world with your world.
Yeah, but this is where it gets difficult, you see. It's not your world as in your ego world. It's not yours in that way of yours. It's in the way of your essence's world. But your essence and John David's essence and everybody else this weekend's essence, it's all one essence.
It's all essence, yes.
So it's not like your personal ego essence is creating the world every morning. You know, that's a big job.
Yeah.
These things are not so easy. You know, for example, you may know that 2 American spacemen have sat on the top of a rocket, and they're now in the space station. And there was something very interesting for me this morning, because this space station is traveling at, I think it's 1,700 kilometers per hour. So it goes very fast around the planet, right? 1,700 kilometers per hour. Yeah. So it's very, very fast, because in a car we do maybe 120, you know. So this thing is going very, very fast. And then they sent this rocket, and on top of the rocket, these two guys are sitting in a little something. I don't know what they call that. Anyway, and this thing is going to connect to this big thing that's going very, very fast. And in the last moment, they had a video camera, and they were showing this small kind of satellite with the two guys sitting inside. This was moving slowly to connect to this big space station, right? And it looked like this small thing was moving very, very slowly, but they had a video of the last 2 meters. And this thing was moving very, very slowly to connect to this big space station. But the space station was actually moving at 1,700 kilometers per hour, which is hell of a fast, yeah? But it looked like almost no movement at all was happening. And that's not easy for our minds to really understand, I don't think. Well, anyway, my mind doesn't quite understand that, really. Does that help? But probably not.
Yeah. So when the ego dissolves, so I come to the essence, and then it's only one world in somehow.
But your essence, your mind, your ego doesn't go away, you know.
Doesn't go away.
No, because to get up in the morning, you need an ego, you know. Do you know this? You've got to have some. There's got to be some kind of inner motivation to get up. Otherwise, you would just lie forever, you know, and never do anything. If it's all pointless, and anyway, there isn't a world, why would you ever get out of bed in the morning? Because you can just stay there forever and ever and ever. So actually, we have an ego, we have a mind, and they don't disappear.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, about 15 or so years ago, there was a guy in the Ramana ashram, and I kind of respected his knowledge. He's written some books about Ramana Maharshi, and he's a kind of clever guy, and blah, blah, blah. And we had some dialogues together. And in those days, we were a bit friends, and we had some dialogues together. And he told me, well, you know, Ramana became a saint. Ramana is special because he had no mind, right? No mind. And I'm like, well, okay, he has no mind, but how does that work, you know? How does he read the newspaper when he doesn't have a mind? You know? So I had some difficulties with this, but this guy was somebody I respected, and he was very clear about it. And so I didn't know what to do, really. And this situation was the, how can I say, the impetus for me to go and meet 15 or 16 Indian masters and make interviews and make this project Blueprints for Awakening. And one of my questions to all these masters was, do you have a mind, right? Because this other guy told me that Ramana Maharshi didn't have a mind. Yeah. So this is actually quite interesting. If you're interested, you can read the result of that, you know, because they all answered in slightly different ways. Yeah. But actually they all have they all had a mind.
Yeah.
And of course, Ramana Maharshi had a mind, otherwise he couldn't have been reading the newspaper.
Also der handelnde Mind einfach. I don't know in English. Yes.
Kannst du in Deutsch
Well,
reden?
Also den handelnden Mind, den braucht man einfach, oder? Der ist immer da.
So the functioning mind you need,
Yeah.
this is always there.
Right, that's right, yeah. The functioning mind you need in order to read the newspaper, but the thinking mind, where you remember something happened in the past, and then you get involved in that thought, that leads to another and another and another thought, and you create a whole kind of fantasy of thoughts. You don't need that part of the mind, the thinking mind, but we need the practical functioning mind. I mean, I doubt Ramana Maharshi was spending much time, I don't know, thinking about what happened to him 10 years before. I'm sure that was hardly ever happening, probably never happening.
So you don't believe in karma, or there is several lives to grow or develop things in you?
Sorry, I'm not really. Can you say that again?
So do you believe in karma? So we got several lives to develop,
Well, having several lives maybe is more to do with reincarnation, that we take off one life and we go into another life and take up a new body.
Us.
Yeah. Well, I guess I've been a bit ambivalent, I'm interested in the idea that, that we come back, and I'm also not quite sure if that's really true. So this was my position for quite a long time. But, again, my two little Buddhas, they arrived 4 years ago in my life. And the first thing that happened, it's really brilliant. They're twins, two of them. Because if there was only one, I wouldn't really know, is that, normal for all children or what? So anyway, these two little bundles of joy arrived. And the nurse or the doctor, I don't remember, said to me, you've got to put your thumb or finger in their mouth and teach them to suck, right? That was my first job as daddy, was that they should suck on my finger so that they could then suck on mummy's breast, yeah? So I stuck my finger in one of theirs mouths, and there was a strong kind of sucking on my finger. And then I stuck my finger in the other one's mouth, no sucking at all, no interest, you see?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would suggest, that was the beginning of me wondering whether, in fact, you arrive with certain kind of memories or certain experiences which are affecting, your ability to suck or your ability not to suck. And of course, as they've got older, I see more and more examples where they're very, very different. So they've had, similar kinds of conditioning. They've they've always been together, actually. It's amazing. For 4 years, they've been pretty much together every minute. So there's not obvious reasons why one can speak 3 languages and the other one can't, The other one can only speak no language, actually. So how is those differences possible if it wasn't for the fact that they arrived kind of differently somehow? So I would say that they've taught me that probably reincarnation is how it goes.
Okay. So we have our bag with us, and
well, I'm not sure we have a bag with us, but we have something. You're going to take a bag with you, did you say?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And what are you going to put in your bag?
It's already there. I was born with him.
Oh, you were born with your bag, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
to deal with them.
To deal with what?
With the bag, what's inside the bag.
Right, right. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And would anybody else like to pick up this subject? It's kind of rather interesting subject. If anybody else has a strong opinion.
Bruno?
Okay.
One second, we can't hear you. Can you? Yes.
Yes. Geht's
Okay, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Well, I raised my hand before this subject. So with me, I just like to talk about what I experienced during the last night and just after this talk yesterday. And for some reason, I noticed that it's very important to me to find peace and freedom with the past, to stay in the moment and to be aware in the present and to have a kind of inner peace and gratitude whatever happened to you, even if you didn't like it. And today this thought is more present in me, and it helps me a lot to be more in the present. Yeah, this is what I wanted to share.
Okay. So just to get it clear, you're saying that if you're in peace with your past, it helps you to be present now. Is it like that?
Right.
Right. Right. Well, the bird seems to agree with you. That's probably your dad, that's probably your father who you didn't have such a good time with. He's probably just coming and crowing over your head there.
Might be, yes. For sure, if I blame somebody else for the suffering or for the pain I'm going through, for sure this isn't the right way to do. And for some reason, I notice some even unconscious. There is quite often some some anger or negativity or whatever to any person who I make responsible for whatever happened now. And I just know, I mean, it's very obvious this isn't the right thing to do, but it's in a way sometimes you need to have a time to get this thing more established in yourself, and I noticed in this direction I have to go.
Right. I think that's a very good observation. I mean, there's a famous story, a spiritual story about the monk, I think, yeah? So he's in a little rowing boat, alone in the rowing boat, and he's gone out into the lake, and there's some wind, and this wind, he's got his eyes closed, he's meditating in the lake in his boat, and there's a wind, and this wind brings another boat, which actually is empty, and this other boat hits against his boat. So he opens his eyes, and he's extremely angry that somebody has disturbed his meditation by bumping boats. Yeah, but then he realizes there's nobody in the boat. Yeah, So then who made him angry? If there would have been somebody in the boat and in the other boat, then of course he would have said, you know, this guy in the other boat made me angry. But when there was nobody in the other boat, there's nobody to make him angry. And he has to accept that this anger is inside him. Yeah. So maybe from that story, we can see that nobody ever makes us anything.
Yeah.
We make it ourselves, you know. Maybe we have some idea about a certain kind of, for example, the other morning, you know, with this little girl who took all the toys. So I had some idea that they're looking very nice where they were on you know, clipped onto the washing line, and she wanted to play with taking them off the washing line. So then I could get angry, you know, I could get kind of a bit frustrated and angry from that. But actually, at the same time I'm being angry, she's been very happy because she had lots of fun with that. So who's judging, you know, what's the correct kind of thing? Yeah. So the anger is inside of me, actually, because I have some idea how it should be. And then I get angry when it's different. So all that thing, all that story is happening inside of me. It's my anger completely. And maybe it's more difficult to see this in connection to our parents, you know, because we have like a big cloud of emotional feelings about daddy or mummy, you know. So that doesn't really allow us, for example, to understand that maybe daddy or mummy or daddy and mummy were the children of some other parents, and they were the children of some other parents. And this goes back a long way. And, you know, our parents maybe have also suffered all kind of not very helpful parenting, you know. And of course, in Germany, a lot of our parents have suffered from the ravages of war. You know, maybe, you know, daddy had to do pretty horrible things, or his daddy had to do horrible things, you know, and we don't really know all that, of course. We only know that maybe daddy wasn't always so sympathetic, and he got pissed off when I pulled all my dolls, you know, off the line or something. Yeah. So somehow it can be possible to simply forgive our parents, you know, that they did what they could do. Some of what they did wasn't really nourishing us very well, but it happened many, many years ago. And by holding on to all that and blaming them, we can't, as you rightly say, we can't really be here now. Yeah. As soon as you could really forgive your parents, whatever you're holding against your parents, as soon as you could really make a how can you say it, forgiveness, you would be free of all that. Yeah, because it's all happening in your mind. Your parents don't exist anymore. They were gone long ago, maybe. Then they're not. They didn't come last night and scream at you or something. Yeah. So everything that's happening is like the guy in the boat. It's all happening inside of you. And if it's all happening inside of you, you also have the power to forgive your parents and let it go. Don't you?
Yes, it's true. I mean, for sure, this is the way to do. But quite often we are stuck and hold on to the idea that the outside is wrong and a lot of things are not in the way it should be. And yeah, just it takes a lot of patience and energy to be grateful and appreciation for the good things which also happened.
Also, it takes a lot of energy to hold on to a big cloud of emotional hurt from 40 years ago.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
and what's possible is that right now you can be free of all that. And then you don't need any energy because you're simply in your natural state. So no energy is needed to be in your natural state. Have you considered this?
Yeah. That's
You see, and you know this perfectly well because you do delicious paintings. And when you're in your studio, you have a very nice studio. And when you're in there and you're painting a few different paintings at the same time, and you're walking backwards and forwards, and maybe sitting down and observing the painting and mixing up the colors, and while you're doing all that, you're not pissed off with your father, actually.
Yeah.
So you have the capacity just to be present.
That's true.
So if you can do that in your studio on a good day, you can do it everywhere. So then maybe you need to investigate a bit. What is your investment in being pissed off with daddy or mummy? You know, there must be some reason, you know, I mean, I've had a number of relationships in my life, you know, quite a lot actually. And they all kind of collapsed. I mean, some of them I stayed friends because my basic policy was always to stay friends with lovers. You know, I never wanted to cut off and be an enemy or something. Yeah, but it wasn't always possible. And so I've often, you know, gone out of a relationship and I've been holding on to lots of pain. You know, why did she do that? And why didn't she do that? And blah, blah, blah. You know, we all do that. Yeah. But it doesn't give you anything. Doesn't give you anything. It's just like a horrible garbage in your life. You know? And when finally, you know, that person kind of disappears, maybe it takes some months or years, when that whole pain has been dissipated, then actually you can start again feeling actually quite good with yourself, which was always possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's possible at that moment when you notice that the other person didn't want to hurt you really, and it was also the theme or the ideas or the themes that this person has, you know, and so and I think as soon as I talk for myself, as I start to take the responsibility for my own stuff, and then it looks a much better way to get healing than try to find the wrongs and the hurts and things from by judging the other person.
Yeah. I mean, you know, from a neutral observer, you know, a neutral observer looking at Bruno, yeah. So they've heard about all these terrible things your parents did to you, right? But also you're a brilliant painter, right? You've got a very sensitive feeling of colors and you make wonderful paintings. So where do you get all that from? Maybe that was also influenced from this terrible mother and terrible father, you know? Have you considered that? Maybe there is
in a way, it
sort of
was
balance of good and bad, you know?
Yeah, it was in this way. It was in a kind of way I wanted to move away from these parents and try to find something which I'm creating myself somehow. This was to find a kind of medium where I can express myself in a where my inner being is somehow reflected. And so in this way, the parents was somehow more a kind of, well, let's say, is something, a point where I want to move away from.
Yeah, but just imagine if your parents had been super nice, then you wouldn't have wanted to move away from them, and you would never have been a painter, maybe.
That's true. Yes.
So maybe, what I'm suggesting, one of the things I like to suggest all the time, actually, to everybody, is that, everything that's happened in our life, everywhere we've been, everybody we met, everything we did, was supposed to happen. And what's happening now in our life, where we are, it is supposed to happen, and nothing else can happen. It can only happen like that. So to be concerned about the past, and you want to kind of change the past somehow in order to make the present different, doesn't have much sense about it.
Yes, I agree. That's true.
And the reality is, this is anyway all happening inside your mind, because what happened 10 years ago, what happened last week even, which is now in your mind, and last week this happened and that person said this to me and I said that, and whatever. Yeah, this is all now being held in your mind, and it's kind of, the tennis match goes on in your mind. Yeah, the emotional drama is only going on in your mind. So you could just say, well, I stop. And that's the possibility of being aware, being the witness. Because if you're really connected to the witness, and then you watch this mind drama going on, this person said that, and I said this, and I got a lot of pain, and blah, blah, blah. You suddenly see, well, this is all ridiculous. This is all fantasy. It's only in my mind. It's not real. That's the value of the witness.
Yeah, I think a big help to me is still meditation, where I get the possibility to be more the witness and try to see from a distance what's happening, and to each emotional situation there are also some sensations on the body, and so quite often I observe the body and what's happening at the moment when there's fear or things. Then I notice there is something in my body changing, and this helps me to see the whole thing a little bit more neutral.
Somebody told me at lunchtime, somebody in the community told me, well, this morning at breakfast I passed by Bruno, and he smiled and said, good morning. And I could immediately feel, that somehow something is different.
Okay. Yeah.
Nice. You see, people are, sensitive to how you are,
That's true.
And the moment you can resolve mommy and daddy into, that was all the past, it's not happening now, I'm only holding it in my mind, it's a kind of ego game. So what is the benefit? What is really the benefit I get from this? It doesn't really serve me, actually, because now I can't even paint because of this. So maybe this is not really something I want to keep on with. Maybe I just stop it.
Right.
The moment you get to that point and you let go, you'll probably get somebody coming and hugging you at breakfast, or maybe you will hug somebody at breakfast. You see?
Yeah. So yeah, it takes some exercise to do, and to be aware, and to be in your present moment, and but
well, it's not really true what you're saying.
This is
excuse me. I have to tell you something. I don't agree with what you just said. You said it takes a big effort to be present. Actually, it takes a big effort not to be present. Have you ever thought of this? Your natural state as a human being is to be present. Not all in the past or all in the future. Just to be present is a natural way for a human being to live their life. So always being caught up with the past takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort, actually. So I think what you just said was wrong, actually. It's the opposite. Maybe when you see that, that will help you stop.
Well, I mean, I think it's not only me who is trying, kind of struggling to stay in the present.
Of course it's not. Of course it's not only you, but we're talking about you at the moment. And I'm not judging you as somebody who can't be present. You know, I'm not making a judgment. I'm just pointing out that maybe you have some wrong ideas about this. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't feel hurted or something. I just think to be in present, we have to keep our mind focused on and not fall into identifying with all the emotions.
Yeah.
And maybe effort is the wrong word, but somehow somehow you need to be present. Yeah? You need to. Oh.
But what I'm suggesting is that if you did absolutely nothing and didn't think at all, you would simply be present. That's like your default position, you know, as a human computer, your default position is to be present.
Yeah, to let go of thoughts. I think it's our yeah, it's a big theme to improve that, or accept thoughts. Let's say like this: to accept thoughts as they are, and let them pass by without getting hooked to it.
I think this is also wrong, actually. Sorry. So, I mean, if you watch your mind, right, at any moment there's a thought coming. It's like thought, one after the other, maybe quite quickly. But if you watch them, they also disappear quickly. They come and they go, they come and they go, they come and they go. You don't have to do anything, actually. What we do usually is we grab the thoughts. You know, there's one particular thought, I'm hungry. We grab this thought of being hungry, and then we get another thought and another thought, another thought. You know? If we just leave the thoughts, they're not really causing any trouble to anybody.
Yeah, to come in this state of mind to leave things as they are, to leave the thoughts as they are.
But you see how much you're thinking about this. You know, you have an enormous investment in thinking. You know, since I've met you, you know, I met you through your painting in the beginning, and then we met through talking about meditation, and then later, it was only much later that I discovered that, you know, you have very, very strong mind, which you seem to find very, very important. This mind, yeah. Maybe you investigate what your benefit is with this very strong, serious mind, yeah. Because it obviously doesn't serve you, because, you know, you see yourself that all your great paintings are done without much mind.
Yes, I think for when I'm in the process of creating something, there has to be also some reflection of the mind. It's not only it's a kind of balancing, but
well, there has to be some reflection, as you say. Of course, there is some reflection. But right now, for example, your mind is working, 300%, and you can't paint because, there's too much going on. And when you're painting, maybe there's a bit of mind to reflect, but not much.
Yeah. To find the right balance, I think it's important to.
So, Bruno, do you really think, you really believe that you have to find the right balance?
No, it should happen by itself somehow.
Yeah. I mean, do you do your breathing? Are you doing your breathing every moment? Have you ever looked and seen how the breathing happens by itself?
When I'm meditating, I observe the breath as it is natural, but not to. I don't need to do something. That's true.
And with your blood system, are you deciding how much to pump around? How many liters of blood you pump every hour around? I mean, I think it's all automatic. Yeah.
Yeah. To be in this observing state, it's of course it's a natural state, but it's not always there. This is what I notice, and when I stay more in a calm and a more relaxed way, then it's more easier to observe.
Right. So why not stay like that? Why not choose that? Because that works better.
Yes. It works better. That's true. I try.
Don't try. Just be the witness and watch.
Okay.
It's all taken care of, actually. You just watch how well it's taken care of.
Okay.
So we're running out of time a bit now. We're got a few minutes more. Anybody particularly like to share something or talk about something?
So, Kashi and Maha and Vishnu wave the hands.
Okay, so let's go to Maha and Vishnu.
Oops.
I just wanted to say that this kind of Zoom meeting was quite nice weekend. And because there's no more Sat TV, I would enjoy it to see you much more often through Zoom.
We have to see what's planned. You may be interested to know that I have deliberately not made any decisions at all. Nothing. I have no plan from tomorrow. I have no plan in the future. Well, that's not quite true. In July, we have a retreat we hope to have a retreat in Tripelia, and in the end of August, we have one in Spain for 2 weeks. We hope both of those could take place. But how my regular meetings are going to happen, I deliberately didn't think about it. So I'm kind of waiting for some sort of divine plan, some divine plan to reveal itself, you see.
Yeah, it just came up that I'm missing it somehow.
Okay, maybe you need to miss it.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah. Maybe I've been too available, you know, doing 2 evenings a week. I've probably been much too available. And therefore, maybe now existence is saying, well, you know, chill out a bit, spend more time with your little girls, do a few other things that you haven't been doing, and they'll come running, you know, because now you're only going to be available sometimes, and you're getting very old, you know, and so, you know, something else. You know? I don't know. I have no idea, really. I mean, I've enjoyed this weekend much more than I maybe expected to. It's pretty intense for me doing 6 meetings in 3 days. So I probably sleep very well tonight. Actually, I've been falling asleep very easily actually after the meeting. We'll see. Yeah. It's amazing how it goes by itself, you know, like after the operation, they give you crutches, you know, sticks. And with those sticks, quite quickly, you can walk to the toilet or you can walk around a little bit. Then they get you walking up and down the corridor after a few days. Yeah. And then when I came out of hospital, the next step was going to rehab. And there's a gymnasium and there are various sessions that you get. And so, you know, but every day I had to carry my sticks there and I needed to use them most of the time. And so on. So it kind of went by itself. And then I noticed that every so often, every so many days, by itself, I wasn't doing anything differently, but suddenly there would be less pain, or suddenly I was walking better or feeling better. I was quite surprised how the whole thing went, actually. And I finished this rehab, where are we now? A week ago. Last Monday was my last day. So I've had 1 week without going for this special exercises and so on. And at some point during the week, I can't even remember when it happened, I stopped using the crutches. I just didn't remember to pick them up, actually. And I didn't make very big walks, but during this week, gradually, you know, yesterday I walked for maybe 1 kilometer at one point, or half a kilometer there and half a kilometer back. So, but I don't even think about these sticks anymore, you see. So it's not like I decided to stop using the sticks. You can say the sticks decided to stop using me, you know. So it's all very beautiful, you know. It all happens by itself in such an amazing way. And that's why I don't really want to decide right now what comes next for me. Actually, I'm planning to go around the world for a couple of years and then have fun.
I come along.
Yeah, I'm going to invite everybody to come with me. You know, we're going a long, yeah, anyway. So I don't know what's going to happen, you know, really. I have no idea. But, you know, I'm also getting pretty old, so I might just not be here tomorrow. You know, that's also a possibility.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Anyway, yeah. Anyway, I think generally I get the feeling everybody's had quite a good weekend. I had a very good weekend. And so we will actually, Radha will send you a kind of feedback sheet. And this weekend, it would be particularly useful if you can give some comments about the weekend, because out of your comments, we can learn a lot about making this kind of weekend better the next time. So it would be really helping us a lot if you give us some feedback, how it's been for you. That would be very helpful. And so actually, where are we? So in a month's time, on the 3rd and 5th of July, here in Open Sky House, we will have a physical weekend. So this is what I call the International Sangha Group, which meets with me every 3 months. And Indira is pretty sure that by 1 more month, we can accommodate everybody here in the house who wants to come here, even though it won't be completely kosher. You know, for example, this weekend we're having a seminar group in the house, but it's limited to 12 people, and they're all eating their lunch, 2 meters apart. And I don't know what else they're doing, but they're doing all kind of funny things so that they don't infect each other. Yeah. So in July, in our weekend, anybody who is, very afraid of getting infected probably shouldn't come, because we'll all sit together in one room and we'll all eat lunch together, and it won't be completely according to the exact regulations, which are quite complicated actually. So that's on the first weekend of July. And this weekend we have, I think, about 6 guests who are here in the weekend, like Gloria, like Arjuna, like Santosh, and so on. And you're all welcome to join that weekend, because I can feel you're all exactly fitting into the purpose of that weekend and so on. So we have about, I think, 18 people or 19 people at the moment in that group who meets with me every 3 months in this house. And usually we have very energetic weekends. And thanks to Bhavati, you get very good food, and it's all very lovely. So you're very welcome if you'd like to come. I mean, this is actually a kind of group where you make a commitment. So you sign a contract with me, actually, although it doesn't have that much meaning. But the first weekend is you come just as a guest. So you can come to one weekend in the beginning. If you like it, we would ask you to make a commitment for some time. So I think Radha will either talk to you about it later, or she'll send you the information about that. You're very welcome to that. And then, as I say, in mid-July, I have a 2-week retreat in just outside Kiev in Ukraine. Completely safe to go there. Everybody will tell you it's not safe, it's very dangerous, but except for Arjuna, there's nobody I've met very dangerous. And then in the end of August in Spain, in this very beautiful house, it's a completely wonderful house. I mean, this incredible garden full of very beautiful palm trees. It's 2 or 3 minutes from the Mediterranean. You can just walk down the road, and it's an old Spanish house, very energetic, and we have a big swimming pool, so that's also very lovely. So that's a nice way to combine a kind of holiday with a retreat. I think we call it a holiday retreat. So in the afternoons, you're free to go to the beach or go to the swimming pool. Okay. Okay, good. Oh, it's exactly 7 o'clock. Look at that. Look how existence takes care even of the time. I'm just wondering if there's anything else I should say. I don't think so. Don't think so. And if out of this weekend you have something you'd like to talk to me about, you can send an email. You can send it to Radha. She'll send it to me, and I'll definitely reply. So we can stay in a good contact if you want to. Okay, well, thank you for being with me, and yeah, very nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.